intending to communicate probably through these briefings and some of those things. And I want to again say there should be a better way. There always was in years past. We want to let everyone know that nobody in public life should assume that no one owes you a thing but to cover stories and cover the news without worry about what people in officialdom think. That's not the job. The job is to get to the truth and to get to the heart of things and report it. But I think adjunctive to that, or even you can't separate it. It's as important, or the most important thing is the truth. That's the whole point. And so I am making an appeal, not only to KLB as our partner of the past, of now, and of the future, because they are certainly that in our community, but also to all of you to remember that we have this utility that does a lot of things that help us have a competitive advantage, and that we are all allowing. I probably would keep a lot of blame on the media, not just KLB, but the media in general, for allowing so much false information to be out in the ethos. But I always have to be nimble enough to get better at figuring out ways to get the truth out there and to get better information out there. And perhaps even when I could be a better partner and figure out how to do that to make those things happen. There's no, maybe at the national level we see a lot of it, probably at the state level now, but there's no inflamed feelings over on our side. There is the general sense that when we do try to unpack it, has not helped. And so again, I'm appealing to a very reasonable young man I know over there, among many, but certainly a person I know, that there's just got to be a better way to do this. That what I want to show you today are some things that outline my proof, if you will, of why the utility deserves to be treated better and fairly. Not with a slant, not with anything, just better and fairly. And we'll go over a few of those things today. So here's my praise today. There was a commercial business that opened. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to go into it. If people make a public records request, you can. But it's not going to be our habit to bring people out on Front Street, as they say. But a commercial person made a request to KLB. Their complaint, I assume, was, I was double charged for a commercial deposit. I was double charged. You need to do a story. And the person that called us, a reporter I don't know that we had dealt with yet, but that person called maybe and said, look, I want to follow up on this. Here are some questions, gave a series of questions. And it turned out that after some discussion, it happened to be a staff day or surrounding that, so I was able to kind of weigh in. I said, look, let's do this differently. Instead of answering back in some formal email, this tit for tat that doesn't help, call the reporter and have a conversation. Let's see if we can start resetting some of this. We've tried in the past, we need to not quit trying. So call back, have a conversation, and then go from there and see what happens. And conversation was had and it resolved itself. What happened was somebody very simply had paid what we would call a deposit for temporary services. Mr. Fowler, you understand that. So if you're opening a business and you have a commercial account, you have to pay a deposit because commercial accounts can be much more significant dollars to be behind on. And it is a cost of doing business. It's a cost of doing business to pay utilities and pay them on time. It's not a thing. It's just that's the reality of every city around us, every town, everywhere, except here. I don't know why. I have some theories about the contributors to it, one of which is how much freedom and workout plans and grace you give is in an indirect relationship to how you're treated by local media and persons about it. It's an amazing indirect relationship, or direct, depending on how you want to look at it. But it's a strange thing. So here's what happened, and I'll give KLB credit. They did their homework and went through it. Very simply, you owe a deposit. I had our folks check and double check and report back to me. Your temporary deposits are much smaller amounts for temporary services. You're not full up in business. When the person then went to have a going concern, a going forward business, you have to have your permanent account open. Then there's the commercial deposit. in which case the city has a larger deposit it requires to make sure that if you fall off a bill, that deposit is in place. We're required by law to do it, both by ordinance, which it's malfeasance for us to fail to do. Stop blaming the administration. If you want to change an ordinance, go to the council. Except let me be fair to the council. They're going to be limited by they can't give away anything either. They have to have bona fide protective measures to run a utility. So this doesn't really bear a lot of talk. This would be true of any other utility anywhere else. I don't know why it's so strange that it's for our utility, other than that you're elected. And so someone can get to you, as they say, and pressure and ask, and in many cases, people need help. And so when someone's elected, they can go to you and put a lot more pressure than reaching someone at, say, a private investor-owned utility. It's much harder to do. So it was determined that obviously there wasn't an issue. The new deposit, whatever it was, I don't know if it was $1,300 or $1,500, whatever it is for that size business for what they estimate to do, you then minus out the temp deposit and you owe what's left as a deposit. Nothing nefarious. Very easy to explain. And very easy to determine as a matter of news, like, is this true? No, here it is. And you can have the account information if you want. Done. But a few weeks ago we had a story, and it was both run and online, that people were cut off for pennies and all that. And we have offered, and I'm offering again, that story is completely false. And we had people look at accounts under it. We don't put that information out, but just hear people say, it happened to me, it happened to me. I had 21 of those run, I think. You want to know what the stats were on all the case, the two in the news and the comments? Who wants to guess what the stat was? Of whether they were accurate, what was said? 0% accurate. Now, here's my point to all our partners. I run a risk. Right now, I'm doing this story, and many of you may go, why are you bringing it back up? And I debate it. Why would I bring it back up? But if I don't bring it back up and I don't start to come up with a way to entreat everybody to do what's right here, we're going to continue to have our utility portrayed to 8 to 9 parishes in the area and ultimately everywhere that something is wrong that isn't wrong. And if this were a private business, it wouldn't be happening because the media wouldn't do that in a private. They would get to the heart of the matter immediately and either stop or determine that the private business was doing wrong. Here, it's easy shooting. And it's hurting what is a proprietary enterprise fund of the city that needs to function and function well. So let's do what you should do first. Before you talk big about what the utility can do, let's just look at the easiest metric for a utility, right? What it delivers at home and for how much. Isn't that somewhere you'd start? So you get complaints, this is all happening bad, my bills are too high and all of that. And we keep saying, compared to whom and to what? That's the only metric you can judge a utility by. Well, that's the first metric. There's others, and I'll go over them. But the first metric is, where do your prices compare to someone else? Well, there's where ours compare in A. So a third party determines this. It's an audited statement at some point. We use them all the time. We've shown you. That's where Alexandria is faring in residential per 1,000 kilowatt hours. Just electric. We're cheap on water and everything else so much. I could do that, but I don't think it'll make a story because it's too good of news. You can't have a story like that, but there's where we fare. Think of the advantage that gives us in so many ways. And this is month in and month out. We'll drop a few, but we're never down low. We're always in that top area. One of my trusted colleagues today said, it's great news and bad news. The great news is that's where you fare. The bad news is that's where you fare. You haven't changed your rate structure since 1986 in any upward amount. So you're beating everybody, but you also are potentially not putting enough money aside at the corporate side of your utility for future needs.
We have changed it, Mayor.
Yes, we lowered it.
We went down on it.
In 2015, from the 1986, we lowered electricity. We adjusted upwardly, slightly, water and others, just to get them a little more out of auditable problems. And the bet was, do this and it'll show people how much you mean business of not hurting them, and it probably wasn't the best thing for us to do. We did it to show good faith, and no one does that. There's nothing you buy that's commoditized or not that you buy at 1986 prices. I say nothing, I won't use a universal. You tell me an example. I can't think of it.
TVs.
They've gone down. Interestingly enough, that's a good point, though. So those things that are market-driven, you have some room. And I'm going to talk about the weapon and shield our utility provides for us because of what it does against the market in 1 second. So anyway, that's where we stand. That's where we stand. The utility's doing well. So I said that was the primary measure. There are others. Here's the next big one to me. When there's a bad event, a storm or anything else, how fast do you get your customers back up? Where do you think we fare to any other utility in the state on electric reconnects? You think it looks like that bar?
I think we're number one.
Yes. That's an unfair comparison to others, but we have a smaller jurisdiction to do it in, and we're dedicated only to that jurisdiction. But nonetheless, that's a metric, and it's true. And we challenge the media to disprove either of these things. I challenge anybody. If you bring it, I will air it. You show that this is not accurate information. What I can't do is prove and disprove a negative. I can't do. You can't just go, I don't believe you, make me believe you. Well, I can never chase that till the end, because if you've made up your mind, you're never going to believe it. I can keep showing the data. That data can be unpacked. That bar has data underneath it that anyone can do. And then they can see it all. You know what they can say? I don't believe it. They're making it up. Who's they? So this, Marcus, has run through, how is this determined?
We just take 1,000 kilowatt hours.
Who runs this for us?
LEPA makes that. LEPA checks our numbers and they make that,
Comparison of
that
others.
comparison of
Okay. So I've shown y'all a bunch, so the council knows you don't always fare number one. It just so happened that right before I came down, I was handed, here's where we are this month. It's kind of a nice one to put up there for you, but there you are. And it's not like next month you'll be at the bottom. You're within 4 or 5. I would have said over time, Jim, we're usually in the top 3 or 3. We're in the 3 range, 4 or 2 or whatever, but there's where we are today. So my praise is, and maybe KLB's point back would be, well, that's on you. So you called and you talked and it got straightened out immediately. So that ain't on us, that's on you. You did it a better way and it worked out better for you. Okay. Let's just keep going, and remember, KLB, you got the barrel of ink, and not us. How we reach out here is not, our outreach from this is not a punishment, not a criticism. We're not going to reach that many people. Please, if there's a story on this, let's talk through it, and let's just make, this is an accurate story we are. It doesn't have to be, the mayor said KLB was right, but he was really being tough on it. It's not that. I'm pleading with everybody to give this utility what it deserves, because I'm going to present some other things about how it can help propel us in the future. So what would be a deposit? Let's just talk about that before someone jumps us and goes, well, then the deposit is wrong. Well, a deposit is a function of a thing. So if X is what the average month would be for a commercial account, a deposit is some function of X. It could either be equal to X, so it's 1 month. You have that at houses, right? You lease a place, you might pay first month's rent. Some might pay first and they might be a big one. You might have to pay 2 to start. It depends, but a deposit is a function of another thing to ensure that whoever provides that service or that thing is protected in the case of default. That's all it is. It's that simple. And as a public body, we have a duty to make our deposit commensurate somehow in that, okay? Again, we're not high on those. We're not unreasonable, but that's what a deposit is. Look, I pull a lot of these stories because they matter, because I worry about how the utility looks out here. It's an optics thing for me. It's not a personal optics thing like personal politics, although of course it affects me that way because you're a leader. You don't want to look like you're not shooting your citizens straight. But what drives the need to keep bringing it back up is to remind everybody just how false it is in this tiny amount of space I can get out there to prove it. But I hear from people. I hear from a lot of people that they're not buying it because I think they know better in some ways. But you know the other big test is I don't hear from a lot of people. I don't hear from a lot of people. I hear from my people about folks that are constantly not paying the bill, constantly defaulting, constantly moving out of payment plans. What other utility offers payment plans? Some people say there's an easy fix to all this. We've believed in and have continued to offer grace. It shouldn't be something we're punished for. It shouldn't be something we're punished for. So we keep correcting these stories. If I pulled every story I've seen, I bet I could go with 99.9% contain either material or are outright just completely not what occurred or what happened. And even in a lot of cases, I'm not talking about KLB now, I'm talking about a whole bunch of other stuff that was online a few years ago with Restore, not KLB, a whole bunch of other stuff. Just totally false and caused people not to take advantage of a program that would have helped. So again, you've heard this, many of you, over and over. And many of you are wondering, why does he bring it up? He's calling an airstrike in on himself. He always tells us not to do that. But the point is, whatever means I have, I've got to continue to do it. Is that a podcast? Is it some new set of things we have to do? Absolutely. But we've got to get the message out there. Okay. Brown water reporting. I have the latest printout from Alex Connects. So I have had no complaints today. That does not mean there are not brown water complaints today. It doesn't mean that there haven't been call-ins or some of you received something, or most likely someone has had brown water today and they're just not complaining because either it's not a big deal to them or they feel like they know what to do to flush it out, or they don't think anything will be done about it, which is bad, which we have entreated all of you. Don't do that. We need to know so we can help chase the problem. So the last Alex Connects physical complaint, which I'm holding now, I won't say the name of the house. I happen to know the person actually, and I know where it is, was 5/17/2025. Today's the 20th. The crew issues on on Alex Connect said it was closed out. It doesn't mean it wasn't done before, but they showed us closed out on the 19th at 6:50 a.m. The complaint came in at 10:20 a.m. 5/17. It shows that the crew remained on site after being dispatched until they saw the main line clear. Here's what's going on with it. And we are doing a lot of different versions to push this out as the council has challenged us and others. And we will do more. We would partner with KLB if they asked us in a second to do more about this. Remember that aesthetic quality issues with so-called brown water are just that. They're aesthetic. Look, feel, taste. Probably even less taste, really look and feel. If you have a dangerous situation, we want to know that. We want to get to that. If you have a testable or you want something tested, we can help partner with that too. We just received 100 points for the state report card. Again, that's not something we do. Someone else does it. We got a 10-point bonus that brought us back to 100 for the obligatory -10 we always get, not from any quality of the water, solely because we have complaints. So you get that automatically as a trigger for complaints. All right, so we ended up with 100 anyway. Marcus Cannella would tell me to say it this way, and I think it is obviously the best way to say it, that what we do right now is we're in different neighborhoods, opening hydrants, and we're doing directional intensive flushing. Directional and intensive. Two modifiers describing the flushing that we do that have independent meanings and both equally important. Directional is our continued effort to make a wider swath of area go into a narrower, more unified area to push the sediment and debris into the smallest area we can get it to flush it out. So that you're not just opening hydrants everywhere and flushing. which I think has occurred in the past, in which we're not doing it that way. We're doing it a different way. Intensive meaning to also cordon and make this the most powerful it can sort of move through. So it's not just open the high, it's moving the water through the system intensively to purposefully stir up sediment and push it out. So that naturally will, it has to go somewhere, it's gonna end up in a place. And some of it bleeds out into our homes and systems where we see it, okay? We have to do it. It's not just about keeping the fire rating 1, which we have now, and which we love, and you want to keep because it saves you money at home. It is ultimately about getting rid of sediment that has built up. But it's going to be sometimes, a little painful for a moment when you're trying to get to that good result. Here is my best recommendation of what to do at home. Not in your sink, because your sinks have little traps and things on them that will collect debris. So less so in your sink, because you may have a little screen in your sink, and that can cause buildup and ultimately rust or different things. Plus, aesthetically, you don't want to push any dirty water in your sink because it's not as easy as what I'm going to recommend. If you have a bathtub, some people may only have showers, but if you have a tub, the easiest thing is first run your cold water as long as you can till it clears. Cold first, right?
Yes.
Cold first, till it's clear, till you don't see brown. Then run hot till you don't see it. So you may go, well, that's counterintuitive. Why wouldn't you run the hot? Because running your cold first lets whatever sediment is in there run out so it doesn't go into what other apparatus? Your hot water. So you don't want it to go build up there. Run your cold out so that's less potential sediment or aesthetically displeasing qualities, iron, mineral, whatever, going in the wrong place. Then run the other. Now, some people may say, why are you saying all this? This is so basic stuff. Because people need to know that is our job. Basic stuff is our job. We are in the business of helping people with basic things. Picking up trash, keeping streets clean, picking up litter, putting out fires, keeping people safe. Water is the most basic thing there is that we need to live every day. So this is important stuff. So our latest announcement, if I have this right, I'm going to run for y'all to see. And so you'll see some of the things that we're doing.
Hey, this is Fire Prevention Officer Jared Price with the Alexander.
Y'all going to have to help me out on the video. It's not showing. It's not that. It's not there. No. It's not the connection. Hold on, let's see. See here. Connection. It's okay. We'll try to show it separately somehow. Well, we had a video that went out. I don't have another way to show it, unfortunately. We're not getting the source to the this to that. But on our Facebook page, I think it's running there. Is that right? Sam, where all does it run?
Facebook and the Alexandria Fire Department's Facebook.
So on Alexandria Fire Department, the city Facebook page, I think we could probably stream it online another way if that's possible. We have a
We
video
want
that was,
citizens to be aware
done by our
that suppression
firemen,
crews
so-
will be out in full force testing fire hydrants within the next few months. Some Alexandria residents have been noticing some discolored water in the area. This is due to our suppression crews out testing fire hydrants, and we're here to explain why that is. The Alexandria
all right, so there's a good-looking young fireman sitting here in front of a big fancy truck. He is explaining what's happening. I encourage you to look at it at home. I'm gonna let his audio play because he's gonna explain it better than I did. But it's a nice-looking video, and we would commend it to your use and share it and get it out there, and it will make people understand. Right now, we're in what neighborhood?
We're in Charles Park right now.
Okay, we
Oh,
moved,
where are y'all living?
Close to the same area.
okay. Around Charles Park, they had been in there, they had been out toward Versailles, we have been through District 3, we've been sort of all over, and we're doing this directional flush. So let me let the audio finish.
Fire Department tests hydrants for multiple reasons. Testing hydrants ensures proper function of these hydrants and proper pressure for firefighting operations when these incidents do occur. They also let us know what type of maintenance needs to occur on these hydrants. The Alexandria Fire Department has obtained a Class 1 rating through the Property Insurance Association of Louisiana. We obtained that through performing tasks such as testing hydrants. In order to maintain that rating and provide those benefits for the city, we have to continue these operations throughout every year. In doing this testing, it does require that high-pressure water be flown through the hydrants and the water mains in the city. This will dislodge sediment built up in those mains, and you might see discolored water in your sinks. While performing these tasks, you may see discoloration in your water. Please realize this is only mineral deposits, and it's just a discoloration. It is safe. If this occurs, please go to a large faucet in your residence and allow cold water to flush this discoloration out. If this does not work, please report it to the Alex Connects app. We would like to thank residents for their cooperation during these types of tasks. These activities ultimately ensure that your fire department and your water system are prepared to respond to any emergency that occurs. Please use caution when operating vehicles around emergency vehicles and personnel. Once again, thank you. Hey, this is Fire Prevention Officer.
So, it's a great looking video. I wish y'all could see it. I can. But we'll be able to make sure that we both continue to put out things like this and that we put out more and more of them in more and more ways. So I think, not everybody gets their information the same way anymore. And there's just for us to predict. There's no uniformity to it. Some people get information from Facebook. Some people get information the traditional way. Some people get it only from KLB, from television that way, or maybe they link that and go online and look at both parts of a story. Lots of ways to do it. We're going to try to meet everybody where they are in those multiple ways. Look, when you weigh things, there would never be a reason not to want our fire rating #1 by not doing flushing. But even if you could have that debate, which you can't, but even if you wanted to, it wouldn't matter because you still have to flush for the very reason of you not wanting brown water in your home. You have to get the sediment pushed out. It builds up over time. And if there was a lack of flushing for a significant amount of time, we're unfortunately the guys that have to come in and restart a program that you're going to see that, but it has to be done. You can use any metaphor you want, from pulling the Band-Aid off or whatever you want to say, but it has to be done. So if it were dangerous, it would be different, and you'd get it picked up by the state's testing. You'd get it picked up by our own. It's aesthetically displeasing. No one likes it. I would tell people, if you're making a record of it to show on Facebook a tub full, okay. I mean, it's okay to do that, but understand what it is. But it's better to leave your drain going, drain it out until the water's clear, or do it in, close and open it where you can tell when it's clear and move on and get it cleared out. But it's also way better not to take a picture on Facebook to ask 1,000 people who don't know what to do, when you could just go straight to the Alex Connects app and ask folks who have a duty to do something about it what to do. And that's better. It is okay, obviously, to put it out there to say, I'm complaining. But get the complaint where the solution maker is too. And I think that will serve everybody better. So I'm going to close on utilities with this. The utilities we have, the whole set of utilities, so it's not just one, right? We have them all, is both a strength and an opportunity for the city. It's a weapon and a shield. What do I mean by that? It helps us protect against uncontrollable fuel costs, spikes in the market. It's a physical hedge to have what we have against the market, that we have it and control it. It helps against any pass-throughs others would pass through on us that we pass through the customer by controlling through that physical hedge and our other planning we do, buying gas pieces out in the future, et cetera. It gives us control. It takes away the ability for a third party to control all of your costs and how things are passed on. So weapon and shield. As a positive weapon, it increases our ability to compete in the economic development market. It offers us an opportunity, an arrow in the quiver, if you will, for economic opportunity. It offers us that, to make deals, to offer a new business locating a special kind of service. You could start with your fuel cost only first year, your fuel cost plus rate second year this much, on down. Does that happen everywhere? You betcha. That happens with all the IOUs, and it can happen with us, and it's in an ordinance, Mr. Fowler, as you know, that people can use. It's been based on now CapEx, industry way of saying a capital expenditure. So if you spend a certain amount to bring a new business, you would get this ability. Or it could be based on a certain amount of new employees you're bringing into the market or employing that otherwise weren't. I have not brought the legislation yet, but I will be partnering with some council members to bring legislation that let's take away those very large numbers to get it for CapEx and employees or a combination thereof only, and add at least 2 new categories. If you're a high-tech company, and we're going to define that, it's not just anything, but if you're a certain company that provides technological services, IT and other things, we want to offer a deal because we want to attract that here. And we'll have a couple of other ones that are public safety and related to those things. So that's what I mean by weapon and shield. That's why I'm pushing so hard to change the narrative. I admit it. We want the narrative changed about the utility. Do we think there's been a massive amount of unfairness and even just absolutely untrue news about it? Yes. But what does it matter? I can think that all I want. The perception is reality. Reality of today is that we have to do something to change that perception. We have to change that talk. And so we're going to continue to do this. I want to move Mr. Fowler off of these, what sounds like apologias or defenses of the problem, and move more toward offensive. Here's what we're doing well. Here's what's happening good. And I think that's one way to do it. I need KLB to partner with me to do that. I have to have that. The reach that they have, we will never have. That's a critical thing in a community to have. And we showed the data that shows the metrics of where we are, and you at home know how fast you're put back on in a catastrophic event. So if you judge us by those 2 metrics, you got to want it to succeed. You got to want it to succeed. And if someone wants to challenge those metrics, please. Please. We're beating our head against the wall. We'd love for you to. All right, moving on. Public safety. Any questions first? Questions? Council members? Old hat for y'all at this point. Tired of hearing it? I try to switch it up with this great video, but the tech failed me. So community service officers, KLB has been very interested in that. And I worry sometimes is the interest that we're not explaining how that works with the police officers that we have. I can't completely dissuade all of you from some number everyone has in their head that they think we're down. It makes good fodder to say that they're down. I don't mean KLB. I mean, unfortunately, I mean people that ought to be working with us about it. They are down. They are down from the height of the amount of officers we've ever had. They are down from that number. When I ran, that was a big thing. If I'm elected mayor, and I don't mean me, others, if I'm elected, we'll be right back up to where we started, 150 or so. 155, 145, 141, depending on numbers, somewhere in there. Well, no, you can't. And I know that because we've done everything we said we would do to get back to that number. And I know the actual universe of officers you can draw from to get there. And I know that I go to national conventions, and so does my chief. And we all know, Commissioner Van Dyke, that that's not true. And I've heard from whom I consider the top law enforcement expert in the country, who told me face to face, you will never see your highest compliment likely again. Period, hard stop. He told all the mayors in the room that. But I walked up to him and had questions on my own, stood toe to toe, not in a group, me and him. And that's what he said. And it kind of stung. I made my notes for that whole trip. I think I actually talked to KLB from the trip. Hate to keep picking on, but I think I had a talk with somebody years ago who was there from that actual trip about some of those things I learned. So I get home. Everything I do, council members, and I think you know this, Bobby, it's evidence-based. I'm going to have an executive order that backs up something until you pass an ordinance yourself. I'm going to have the research done. It's going to be cited in an order. It's not going to be some willy-nilly decision. One of the things I believe in, they're with me on it. Our officers are not saying, oh no, we need to get back up to that number because they're taxed. So think about it. Normally they would want only that because they want more of their own getting paid and benefited and in with them. But really what they want is we need more officers to protect us, to give us time off, to let us catch a breath. So whatever we have to do to help that now, they are on board. And what we all are talking about, and it may be different for people, and you may think, I only want a sworn post-certified guy or girl doing this. We have learned civilianization is necessary. There are many jobs that a full badged, gun-toting officer has done, whether it's in IT or other things, where you would not need that anymore, and that is not a good use of resources. More and more each day. So I don't have the magic number for you. I have a number in my head where I settle back and forth about where I'd like to be. But whatever force multiplication I can give them, what are force multipliers? Well, they would be ancillary. They could be retired officers who come back in. They can be a camera as a force multiplier. It can be somewhere where you'd want an officer, but for manpower or people power, you can't have them, so that camera's there to force multiply, to give as though there are more people, eyes and ears on something than there are. Right? Certain outfits to cars and vehicles can be force multipliers. Certain types of tactics, weapons, and training can be. All of those things are part of force multiplication. They allow what one person could normally do without much to be outfitted, equipped, trained, etc., to do more than one person would normally do. Force multiplication. So, technology's the big one. The biggest one I know right now are drones. That's huge. I'll say less about it, but we deploy a lot of that tech. We will continue to, because it saves the lives of officers, the lives of victims, and it even saves the lives of assailants to have those in place. So those are things we need to do. Another set of things that we studied as a best practice and that I believe is necessary, and KLB has been asking, so I want to keep unpacking it, is our use of those community service officers. We have hired 4. We are trying to get to 10 plus 2 supervisors. 10 plus 2 supervisors. So think about what that does to normally what you'd have to have an officer do, whether it's the FET event or things like that, where you'd be better off having officers deployed in the more sensitive things to do. And you have this trained, but not full badge gun person, right? In our parks, running litter patrols, looking at commercial rental abuse, like helping to augment code enforcement, a big one, right? All of those things where you'd have a trained person that can either report that this needs to scale up to an officer or de-escalate that it doesn't and take care of it. That's force multiplication. The idea you wouldn't want to have our CSOs, I can't understand it for someone, but we're going to have them. And it's a best practice. So it's not a way of getting around, getting back to that number. It is the force multiplication. It is getting to that number through a means where people part-time are allowed to do it so I can pay them higher, more, and increase their benefit level. Therefore, it isn't what maybe the best world would be. The best world would be you're back to your numbers and you're getting your pay you want, which you'll never achieve because they'll never agree to that. He's laughing because he knows. And every benefit would be how you want it. But here's what we did. 100% health, retirement contributions, all of that, we declared it an order our first year. We've done it since. The council has not complained. I will renew it again. That is one of the things we do. Sign on monies, all kinds of things we're doing. Getting them to this class of pay where I want them to be where they could start. And even when you get them there, there's going to be a certain amount of overtime you do. A first-year officer can do well here. They bought in, they're recruiting to others, they're doing what they can. I think we had 2 just come out of this academy. But I can remember days where we'd have 10 in an academy. So we're doing what we're supposed to do. If there's more challenges, we'll do different things. But I'm telling all of you, and this hurts to hear, there is a dearth of people that want to put a badge, uniform, and gun on and get out there and police. That desire is not there. And we run a tight ship on getting in. We're going to outfit you and help you and bring you through it, whatever challenges you may face within constitutional policing. We're big about that. But to get in, before we make those investments, you got to get it. You got to have the qualifications. Cousin's friend maybe wants to dabble in it, has a long record of trouble with law enforcement himself. You might not make it in to be a police officer. I'm sorry. But you can mitigate through that too. You can try. There's always circumstances we can consider. So that's where we are. I really wanted to link this a little bit to housing issues. I'm going to cut us off so we can get it done a little ahead for everybody to breathe before the council first committee, which is at 4. But one of the items on the agenda was about housing, and I just want to make sure that 2 things we cover are done. We're going to talk for a moment about our hearing officers, and I want to remind the council members that you pass a 5-year plan, and it says what housing goals are. But I want to be real specific because my staff doesn't necessarily agree with me on this, and I have a habit of telling the public the stuff that they disagree with me on. I'm not scared of that. That's life. It's a good thing to not have everybody say exactly the same thing. You want people to challenge you in every way. In talking to members of the council, no straw vote, just overtime, meals, FETs, whatever, I believe I can say this accurately. I believe that the majority, or right at the majority of council members, and I have the same opinion about housing. And it would go roughly like this. We'd prefer the market to solve all the problems if it could. That's optimal. That's not going to happen. Under the market solving every problem, which it can't. It can't. And by that I mean not all full-time working married couples or individuals. So full-time, dedicated to a career, showing up every day, doing what they're supposed to do, can afford a house. Did you know that? Can't afford a house, can't get in one. Now, at my age, at any of us, we'll say, I'm 50 and above, any of us that are 40 and above, with everybody who's older than us in the room, in the groups I just said, you thought that was the American dream, Trey. That was it. That's what we were going to do. That anybody dedicated to a full-time job and worked every day and acted reasonable and spent money carefully could have a house. That's not true. And it is driving the young generation wild because they were told that too. And they can't experience it. And in some cases, it's far from their ability to get. So the market will not resolve that problem, not as it stands today. And I'm not here to give you the lecture of why. Everybody's got their theories. I'm just telling you it's a reality it can. Home ownership's best is our first, what I would say, the majority or close to the majority I talk to. White, black, male, female, anyone I talk to. What I hear from people is, we'd love to see the most incentives that the public can drive be toward home ownership. My staff doesn't agree with me on all this, guys, but that's my first. Home ownership is best. I would say followed by mixed income, market-driven, townhouse-style units. So if you can't achieve that, I would say for me, the next best goal is that any incentives that come from the feds or anywhere else, Chuck, go toward some kind of mixed income. So if I said mixed use, I meant mixed income here. Some class of moderate, some class of people who really need more help. It should be a less number so that you are providing a housing opportunity and what I would call almost like a townhouse, so, a garden home type thing that's rented, that's not owned like a true condo. Okay? That would be my next best. Smaller amount of units in the 30s instead of in the 60s or 90s, that would be my next best. After that, mixed income, market-driven apartments, still market-driven, still mixed income, Chuck, but apartments. But those apartments would need to be certain characteristics, LEED certified, for example, security, all those things in place. And then I think after you get to apartments, then you get into more risk-associated apartments, what people used to call, and I think it's sort of pejorative now, but either low income or the most pejorative because of the law that it's cited to was Section 8 housing. We tend to call that lower income or other things now. There's a place in that too. And there is a place in law enforcement to bring this all full circle. And the point I was trying to make is that we got to make that the best we can. We had some incidents. The Housing Authority, that is not Alexandria government, even though it's called the Alexandria Housing Authority, but we're making progress and did. Not only did we solve that terrible catastrophe there fast, but the partnering we're going to do there is immense. And it just so happens that there's an officer in this room who just won an award from, who was recognized for this on a much more than just local level, who's dedicated his life to that, has had maybe other opportunities and said, I want to help in this area. And he's known by other officers for that, and he's known by many of you. And it's commendable, and I commend you for it, and I'm proud of you for it. I've known you a long time. You're a great officer. So give him a hand. His name is Stephen Bankston for all his friends. I just ruined him with all the other officers and everybody. He will take, believe it, this will not be positive for him.
He's raised across the street from me, I think he got it there.
Yeah. So, redevelopment and other tools. We really are stuck a lot on housing being important. Ms. McGill's and her team and the planning division and all of its team members are going to be bringing up to you guys tonight an option for hearing officers. So as Kay would say, another tool in the toolbox. We tried doing a city court thing. It's hard. City court's great for misdemeanor crimes and those kind of things. It's hard to move, Daniel, as you pointed out to me, some of that. It's not a court issue. It's not the court, not the judge, not his people, not our people. It's a poor design for all the challenges and exceptions to moving forward that get filed. There are different things in the law you can do to stop a process, hold it off, continue it, right? Y'all see it in your own meetings. There's always that. It's just probably a good thing if we could stand up our own adjudication board, if you will, have hearing officers that make determinations appealable to the 9th JDC, and we can move this stuff faster. I think that's been a best practice. We talked about it when I was last mayor. In that time, we never pulled it off. I think you'll see many other cities are doing it or moving toward it. I think Mr. Lauderdale may have some technical amendments he wants to talk about. I would tell all of you, I haven't told Malcolm directly, but I think Daniel spoke with him. If you guys choose to pass it tonight, and I think you should, whatever amendments, I was just going to ask that Mr. Lawverdane get with Daniel. They work out whatever amendments they want. We'll bring it back and add the amendments. But let's keep the train going. None of them were, one of them, they're all time related. I think Mr. Lawverdane was concerned about some special classes of persons that you would want to give some break to. He talked about forced errors and some others, and I think perhaps perhaps we can achieve that goal and just do it in a different way. Because what would happen if you just gave a definition is someone just comes in and says, I'm X, I'm Y, and it's not adjudicated yet, well, then you would never keep it in process. So we just need to be careful. We got a great team. They're committed to work with your chair, your legal chair, who is a lawyer, and we'll get it done. But we're not offended if you pull it and say, wait for the amendments. I would just tell you, you don't have to. Pass it. Whatever y'all want, we'll amend on it. I mean, I hate to say it like this, but whatever you pass now is better than where we are, and we need to move these, okay? So it would also give an opportunity for some lawyers in town who are in different spots in their career. They come on and act as an ALJ, as an administrative law judge. That's a good opportunity. It's taking it off the council, because right now, any of this process, you'd have to hold hearings in front of the whole body. I know y'all don't want to do that. These guys are trained to find facts, apply law, and put out a written decision, right? And if someone wanted to have you review and say it's not being done right, you always have that right, but it's easier if you let them appeal it to the 9th JDC. We would never care if y'all wanted to add yourselves in the appeal process, but why would you? If you're trying to move it, you're just killing yourself by adding yourselves into a new, then what's the standard? Then who's going to find the new facts? Is it a full new hearing, or do you do it that way? It's your process, okay? I talk about when I have authorities for things, this is a you authority. You guys can write this how you want, but we really think you should do it. Have some ALJs, we'll get people that are good, fair, we can talk about how to select those and make sure that's done right. Diverse group of people we know will do a great job, and I think it'll help you. I had GATA on here. I know they had a meeting. I'm dropping that so we can stop at 3:30 like I wanted to. There was a lot to say about it. I continue to think we just need to get past a feelings part into a let's work together. And there has to be a dropping of the idea that the hardest thing is to know how much, some of you know behind the scenes, we were trying to keep things on the rails. And we keep being brought in as though we're part of some negative thing, and we're just not. GATA has a chairman who's working with us, Dr. Lewis. I appreciate him very much. It's kind of like he used to. Now that I said it, he's probably get beat up for me saying I appreciate it, but I do. He's trying to get things on track. He's working with us. There's just a constant issue with things that have nothing to do with development and grievance-oriented, and I can't fix those things. I can just say, they're not true, and here's the proof in the pudding. Let's move forward. We have the Weiss's deal that I understand. Again, I'm not going to go through the report but just to give y'all a short synopsis. Mr. Goins went there and presented. He wanted this on his own. This is not Jacques Roy directed. I think the staff here, again, differs with me. They feel a lot more strongly than I do, but you don't have to have a Weiss and Goldring development for your redevelopment authority. And it is yours, and that's a big part of the battle. To brace up a building that's a public safety hazard. It's in the legislation directly as its purpose. GATA's purpose is to promote the economic development of the city of Alexandria. Underline, quote, bold, italicize, whatever you want to do. In order to provide for are you ready for this? Renovation, restoration, and development of property in the city. I guess it could have Weiss and Goldring in brackets next to the statutory definition if you could have thought of that back when this was written, but that's what it's for. C, it's for the purpose of the next part, cooperative economic development with the city, between the city and the special taxing district. It doesn't say other entities, although there's room for that if they're in the city. It actually says the city and the taxing district. Pretty clear. The AG just said it was pretty clear too. D, the district shall have as its purpose cooperative and can you imagine, it keeps saying the same stuff. Between the city and the district in order to provide for the things I said, it's for the welfare of the city of Alexandria and its residents and should be liberally construed for that purpose. It goes on to say the things that it can do. It's directly to do this. You don't have to have an end deal development. We're trying to create a shovel-ready project of a property you own as the city. So the council, you own it as the stewards. This isn't a private piece of property. This is the same as if it were City Hall. Do you think you couldn't partner with GATA to redo part of City Hall? Of course you can. And the rules for that are written in the statute and the Constitution. They work together. The idea that you have to have a provable, in-game, this is the that's not true. We're trying to get it ready for that purpose. But I ask y'all to study that, talk to your colleagues about that distinction. It's kind of a big one. I mean, we're kind of beating our heads about it, and we're having a lot of trouble with your appointees, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, understanding or accepting, accepting that that's the purpose. And I think there's some consternation because they're being instructed that they're independent and have nothing to do with the city. Read the statute. I challenge all, just go read the statute. One statute, one citation, it's a lot of words, but go read it, and it'll be real clear to you what GATA is for. Please, read the statute. We need GATA. That's as negative as I'm going to be in public. And I've held 2 years of just trying to be sweet and make everybody get to the table, but I've got to get this off center. We were even told once, well, you just want to do this for the projects the city wants to do. Yes, that's what GATA's for, to do the projects the city wants to do, that we're elected to decide we want to do. You could tear down that building. Good luck with the good luck. But it's a great building with great bones that can be reused. And we're getting close. We just need to get it shovel-ready. Why do you get other projects shovel-ready? Why does the state talk about shovel-ready projects all day? It's so that someone can come develop them because they're what? Shovel-ready. That's the shovel and cut the ribbon. Because they're ready to go. All right. Questions on that?
Where is the current status of the West End Green? What is it right now?
The status of the project is the city's moving forward on making it shovel-ready and a developable building, meaning that a private entity could come in, or government entity, or a combination of both, and have a mixed-use development. I guess in my mind's eye, it's no secret, I also would remind all of you that years ago, we have 5 or 6 years worth of studies backing it up, certificates of need that you did, coming back to you, I promise. All the things that put into place why it's needed. So mixed use, by that I mean, one iteration would be that I think would be great. There would be a housing component on top and probably some commercial activity on the bottom. So mixed use. So mixed income or different income levels. Mixed use is both residential and commercial at the same time. And some of those commercial uses could be GATA itself, could locate there and become the manager of it. GATA has expressed an interest in having a right of first refusal to take the project after it gets to a certain level. The answer is yes, I will recommend that. Yes, yes, yes. You could also put our veterans deal that we've already have a green light to do, so that's 2 public anchors. And the city is bursting at the seams in here, and we could find a use there too. So you'd have most of the commercial part taken up. You could have one other private business in there. You're good to go. That helps bank flow it for the part that's tougher, the housing component. That's if you want housing. It could be other things. It could be an elevated parking ramp for the Bentley and others that need it. It could be all kinds of things. The one thing it simply has to be is ready to develop. And since it was given to us and we were a plus, we'll call it plus $500,000 to plus $750,000 because we got it for free, what we're putting into it in a partner like Gata that did a similar thing on Masonic Drive, right? Took down the Cavalier, created infrastructure that could be used for multiple purposes later. They got criticized for that. Not me. I think it was a good move. You took out blight and made something developable for the zoo. Same thing here. And it's right in the heart of everybody else's functioning. So it is absolutely a target place you want to see something happen. So my short answer then after all of that explanation is, where it is in the project process is we need to make it developable regardless of whether there's an end user connected to it. When I came in, there was an end user connected to it. We did nothing but support that process going forward. And it doesn't mean that they wouldn't do it, but they're past the period where they have an exclusive right, so it's back open again to anything. Any way you cut it, we need to make it ready to go. We're asking Gata for help because that's what they're for. They generate tax dollars for that purpose, takes it all off your back. I have a budget line item from me, we'll continue to do it. I'd love to think there was a partnership there. I don't know why there wouldn't be.
So are you saying Gata is against redeveloping the building?
No, I think Gata's for redeveloping the building. I think that both teams have not found the space to come to a unified vision of the project, and some of that can be as simple as, and likely is, a lack of communication. For which the city is only too happy to accept anything that we need to help make this work. We appreciate Gata. There was a big push when perhaps there were the votes to do it, to end it. I pushed against doing that. And I hope that was, I still say that's the right decision. Some people criticized me for doing that, said it just needed some massive reset. I tend to think if you're looking at the project only from the standpoint of who and not what, you're on the wrong side of things. It's not about a who. And so if you know Gata has value and you know what it does is for the good and you're struggling with who's on it, that's a personal problem and that's a failure of leadership and our appointment processes and all of us to come together. But that's not a what problem, meaning Gata offers a huge and grand opportunity as our partner. But you got to recognize the what. And the what is, it is to work with the city of Alexandria. And anyone denying that, you can look at what the statute says and you look at what the AG most recently said about its purpose.
And going back towards the groundwater stuff, there was this graphic that you had. Where did that research come from?
The graphic I had up about the Alexandria utility,
Yes.
the research comes from a printout by LIPA, right? They actually printed out or created?
They created it.
Yes. So that's, I don't know, it's a cooperative development power authority that is public in nature. So its information is public to the extent they wouldn't argue they have some kind of exception in giving you things.
And I believe you mentioned the fire department is flushing out fire hydrants. Are they doing that in each district in the city?
Yes, but not all at the same time, because great question. If they did it all at the same time and it wasn't then directional and intensive, they would defeat the purpose. They would just be throwing sediment in different areas and it would never make sense. So what we're focused on and asked for KLB's partnership with is telling people which neighborhood we're going to be in then and next so that people can not be surprised by it and take those measures I described where you run your cold water first till it's clear, then your hot water.
So where are you guys now and then where are you guys going?
Let's go back a few. So we're in May. Where all did we go in April?
So what we've done so far, we've done West Point, Bocage, Pecan Bayou, and now we're in Charles Park. And I like to accumulate the complaints, the active complaints, because some of it clears up, and I try to go to the active complaints, and then we make a plan for the following week. So I haven't determined, I have some areas that I'm looking at, but I don't want to say until we have a firm plan on where we're going next week.
I got you. So West Alexandria-ish right now. Obviously, last year, we were a lot more in District 3 here, and you heard a lot more complaints there as a result. So you hear the complaints where they go. So he's kind of moved from here and across, and we're trying to direct it to also figure out in a way where there may be actual other issues. For the folks at home, I think one of the problems that has been identified by utilities would be that in times past, there was not a directional plan. And I think importantly, if someone goes and cuts off a valve for any purpose, and you don't mark it and you're not putting that in a system, think about it. You're cutting off and making different decisions about valves while you may be doing a project. So if the city's working on a road or a project, they may have to cut a main or a delivery system of that area, so they're cutting that off. Well, if you're not always thinking about when that's cut back on, when others come on, you're creating all these problems where you're having, if you imagine a labyrinth of water infrastructure underground and elsewhere, and it's not functioning right anymore, and then you're going to have a buildup of sediment in places where it wouldn't normally be. So we've also instituted a new plan of how to ensure that doesn't occur. When I was last mayor, I'm sure, I had brown water then because I remember I did. I've always had it from time to time. Never enough where I would make a formal complaint unless the first few times I didn't know what it was. Seems like more complaints now. I think it's a project of not having the proper flushing program for enough years where that built up. And so you come back in, you got to fix it. And if you think I'm laying blame there, okay. That's what infrastructure is all about. You gotta do these things every day for it to work. I also think, though, in fairness to everybody, in the 4 years before we came back, I just think there's also a change. There's also the change of you can complain a lot easier. Technology's a lot faster to get a complaint out. The connection of people on Facebook to share complaints wasn't as fast, right? If you think throughout history, that was always the norm. Imagine being in the media in the 1800s. It'd be a little bit different to get your story to a town 3 towns away. So I think some of that's part of it too. It's just the advancement of technology. You're going to see more of the complaints grouped together. I actually think that's a plus for us. And that's why we encourage people to report it, because it'll help us direct it. Next question.
As far as the groundwater, that's been, a huge complaint for residents, so is there a point where you...
When KLB says huge complaint, how does that huge get put in there? So I would say it's not been a huge complaint because it doesn't reach me, and I think I would hear it differently. I think it's a complaint because it's heard here and online. And I think that gets amplified. Again, I haven't had a single brown water, and we're flushing like mad, and I haven't had a complaint now in 3 days, so that cannot, by definition, be huge. So some pushback, because I think the question's a bit loaded for me to answer. Now, if you remove the huge, what was your question?
Is there a point where you can see the groundwater issue being eradicated?
So I feel like everything I just explained is, when all things stop corroding altogether and a city can afford 100% new infrastructure every few years, if you think that day is coming, then my answer would be sure. If you think that's not a reasonable view of how this works, I would say that you're always going to have sediment and deposits and water that comes from probably the best little aquifer system in the state, which is our Kisatchie well system. It's going to naturally have those deposits in it. And I don't consider that a bad thing.
So maybe a different way to ask the question would be, doing this regularly, will this, how often do you have to do this to help with?
You had the question right before and you took yourself off the right question.
Okay.
Doing this regularly will lessen the amount
Yeah.
of serious complaints about brown water.
Right.
Yes.
Also, the day you finish cleaning it completely, it's gonna start rebuilding because
Yeah.
it comes from the ground.
Right. In places where these deposits exist. And look, I'm not being snarky to KLB. I mean, these are facts. Like, this can be checked, so it's not someone saying it. I push back that it's even a valid question to say, you're not valid, that it's not the right question, let me say it that way, to ask when we'll never have a brown water complaint again. Or when it's eradicated. I would call eradication where you're not certainly having the amount we have today. I think it's more a product of what Stelter said, which is if you have a proper program of flushing, you should see many less complaints than we currently do.
Is there a requirement, like, to keep a fire rating one, a certain amount you have to? I was just curious.
Have to flush?
Yes.
So I won't call it an exact math. There is definitely a requirement that you have to flush at an intensive level, not directional, but intensive level to achieve the one. So there has to be so much done. I mean, I guess there is a metric, a number. You got to,
There is.
Yeah.
Actually, each hydrant has to be inspected annually, and we have to flow check the hydrants once every 5 years.
Okay.
so we're doing them like other things in infrastructure, like we did the clean out. We're doing a much larger set of things at one time so we don't get behind and continue to have the bigger complaints. Your word, huge, I would say. We're lessening the amount and quantity of complaints by doing a qualitative change, like a massive amount of flushing at one time. In theory, when you get that sort of caught up, like getting cars back that weren't bought or anything else, then they fall into more of a normal track of replacement, right? Like vehicles. If you don't buy them at all for several years, you got to buy them all at once. You really want to stagger it out. Same here. You don't want to have to do the intensity we're doing right now. You want it on a scheduled plan, and that's what we're resetting to. It's actually thoughtful, good work that you're seeing a negative from because it was deferred. Anything else? All right, I think council's going to start 15. Thank you so much.